and welcome to another video. My name is Emily. If you're new here, I'm an aspiring author currently working on draft 1 of Project Stargazer, my portal fantasy with a magic system inspired by the stars. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Currently it is Tuesday, July 1st, and I actually have a stat holiday today, so I'm off work. I'm going to use today to try and make some progress towards my project because honestly, work and life have just been so busy lately that I really haven't been able to devote the time that I want to my project. I think in June I wrote maybe 500 words, give or take, so I was really not making the kind of progress I wanted to. And I have a rough goal to finish the first draft of the manuscript by my birthday, which is the mid to end of August. I've got 2 months left. I only have 65,000 words. I'm targeting 100,000 words in the first draft, which may or may not happen, but that's the goal right now. So I have a long way to go. I have a lot that I need to make up, and I wanted to try to make the most of my day off. It is a beautiful day. I don't have AC in my apartment, so it's a little bit warm. So we're gonna go to a coffee shop and see what we can get done in about an hour, because I think that's how long they let you have a table at this particular coffee shop. I don't think it'll be busy since it's a holiday. Most people are gonna be like out doing things with family. But I am doing a pretend I work full-time as a writer day, I guess. So let's see where we can get. The last time I did any kind of writing retreat or like full day of writing, I had set a pretty aggressive target for myself of 2,500 words. That didn't go very well for me, so I think this time I am not going to set a minimum word count goal. I'm just going to use this as like an information gathering exercise and see what I can do. We're basically just going to spend most of the day writing and working on my project and see where things get. So stay tuned for the end of this video and I will let you know where we ended up getting in the project, progress, etc., how everything went, and how many words I ended up getting. But for now, we have like zero expectations, and we're gonna see if that helps. So come along with me to the coffee shop to go work on my novel. Also, if you're new here and you enjoy writing vlogs and you want to follow along on my journey, I would love to have you. So go ahead and subscribe down below for more videos like this. Hello. I just got home from my solo cafe writing date, and I was originally going to film this clip in the park because I thought that that would be like a cute vibe. However, since it is a holiday, the park is very busy, and while I am a little bit more comfortable filming in public now, I am definitely still not ready to film in front of large groups of people, and I figured that the audio quality wouldn't be great too because it'd be loud. So here we are on my balcony, and I just wanted to kind of run you through how that sprint went. So overall, I think it went pretty well. I got 633 words total, I think, in my documents at least. But I also, at the end there, which you probably would have seen, I ended up trying to figure out some timeline issues on paper. So I probably wrote another like maybe 300 or so words there. So overall, feeling pretty good about the pace. I do keep running into the same issue though, I think, which is that I can see the big picture of the story in my head, but every time I sit down to actually write it, something goes wrong and I get overwhelmed by the scope of the story, and I end up not being able to focus in on the individual little pieces. So this has happened a lot with the multiple POVs. Also, is the wind a paid actor? Maybe. I keep getting overwhelmed by the multiple POVs because part of the story takes place in the past before the opening scene of the story, and this is really important to moving the plot forward. However, I'm still figuring out the specifics. So I know generally what happened in the past, but there's a couple of like pretty important, I would say like pivotal elements that I haven't figured out yet. And so I keep running into issues in the present timeline because I haven't properly resolved things in the past timeline, which takes place almost entirely off page, by the way. So a lot of this is really just for like my own reference, which makes it even more confusing for me, but also probably for you guys too. I think what I really need to do is just spend some time getting organized. My outline, again, keeps kind of changing. I've never really done a great job of outlining. The 27 chapter outline method did work really well for me back when I did that, but so much of the story has changed since then, and it kind of fractures a lot of the pieces that I've already built. And so a lot of what that outline was doing no longer works for the version of the story that I'm writing. So I will have to re-outline. But since everything nests kind of interestingly, like there's a bunch of subplots that didn't exist during that outline. There's a lot of key plot elements, specifically like the entirety of the fun and games section that also didn't exist when I made that outline. So it doesn't really hold up anymore. So I need to re-outline, but I'm also overwhelmed again by the sheer scope of the plot and just kind of keeping track of everything. And I get this like weird anxiety when I'm writing where I feel like I need to write things in chronological order, but if something isn't working, I jump around to other stuff. And while this works like kind of in the short term, it ends up causing a lot of problems in the long term because I end up with little pieces here and there, and I'm not clear on, you know, bits of the canon where I'm like, oh yeah, and this is a rule over here, but I only put it in that one scene. I don't put it in like an overarching document. So it ends up being a lot of chaos and a lot of not well managed plot elements. I feel like I'm just rambling now, but basically my process of trying to write in chronological order, doing so unsuccessfully, and then as a band-aid solution, kind of jumping around, has in fact come to bite me in the butt now, because I'm getting really overwhelmed with, again, the scope of my plot. And the only person who can figure it out, unfortunately, is me, which is really annoying. That is kind of where we're at. Today, I worked on one scene from a previous timeline that's going to be very critical to the overall plot, which is really exciting. I still have to work out some specifics for it, but I think I have a general outline, I would say, of what that scene is going to look like. I know functionally what it's doing, and that definitely helps, where I have a lot of other scenes where I have no idea what I'm doing until I sit down to write, and then I write something that is decent, but that is doing something very different from what I thought going into it, and it ends up just, you know, veering off course. And that is basically the issue that I am having with drafting right now. I also worked on a confrontation scene between Isabel and her minder Dom, which has been a lot of fun. I really like writing their relationship. It's very much like older brother, younger sister, because Isabel's an oldest daughter. She has a younger brother, but she doesn't really have anybody to look up to. So Dom, being her minder, kind of takes on that like big brother or like other responsible adult she can look up to kind of role. So that's been a lot of fun to write. But part of the problem is, again, things are not super clear and I'm not building momentum through my scenes. I'm writing a lot of just like static snapshots. So they don't feel earned. They don't feel like they have momentum because they don't. So I need to work on that. But overall, the words were flowing mostly. And after, such a long dry spell of not really being able to make much happen on page, I've already beaten June's word count on July 1st, which June's word count was, I just checked, 477 words. So it isn't like we're out here overachieving or anything, but I do feel much better knowing that I'm feeling a little bit more back on track. But I think what I'm going to do with the rest of my afternoon, because it's like 12:45 now, I just bought a matcha, which I think I left it inside. I'm going to go get it. Why is this so hard to close? I got an iced matcha from the coffee shop that I was at earlier. I got a coffee while I was writing and then a matcha for the way home. But it is actually 1 o'clock. I thought it was 12:45. It is not. It is 1. So I think I'm going to make some lunch and maybe do a little bit of tidying up of my room. And then I think I'm going to dive back into my draft and just do a little bit of reorganizing at my desk. Because I think I'm going to keep running into these problems until I go in and fix the root of the issue, which is a very, very chaotic draft that is overwhelming and disorganized, which is leading me to feel overwhelmed and disorganized. So let's go get some food and then jump back into it. Hey guys, I have been writing for the last, honestly, like 2 hours on and off. I also changed into shorts because 1, it's really hot, and 2, my long skirt kept getting stuck under the wheels of my chair. So I changed. Anyway, I was just texting Becca about this, but I think me writing out of order and not really sticking to my outline has kind of backed me into a corner creatively, which is like a weird feeling. So I figured I should go back to basics with an outline that hopefully will work for me over the next little while. Don't look too closely at the sticky notes behind me. I need to do a little bit of reorganizing because I've added some scenes, I've added some moments in between each of the items that I have back here, and I feel like this is nowhere near enough scenes, which is crazy because obviously that's like almost 2 entire packs of sticky notes, but I digress. Anyway, I need to do a little bit of reordering of these, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll let you know next steps afterwards. Let's reorganize my sticky note wall behind me. Okay, so we're gonna reorder the sticky note wall. Hopefully you can't see too closely, but I wanted to run you through what each of the sticky notes means. So if you didn't watch my retreat video, I've got 3 different colors of sticky notes that denote my 3 main POV characters, which are the ones behind me here. Blue is Isabel, pink is Lucy, and green, this like yellowy green, is Nestor. I've also added purple. So there are a couple of things, I mentioned this I think in the last, like the clip on my balcony. There are scenes in the story that take place in a previous time, basically. So we've got a couple of flashback scenes to 2 different timelines. One that's like roughly 300 years before the story starts, and then one that is about 20 years before the story starts, and another that is like in the months leading up to the catalyst, basically. It's like 6 months before the story starts, which is when one of the characters goes missing. So purple is that. This is so chaotic, but it's fine. Yeah, okay, that'll work. Okay, so this is like the very beginning. Got the refusal of the call. Eventually agrees. Okay. I just wrote this one down. Where did I put this? Where did I put this one? Here it is. Okay, this is her first piece here. We need to have this though earlier. So this is gonna go here actually. And then these are gonna go here and here. Here. We'll go with this. This is like almost taking too long. Like, I think some of these need to be like compound scenes because I don't like this. Maybe this here. And then that's what this prompts her to accept the call. Okay. This also goes with this. We'll make this here. We need to introduce Nestor before this point, because otherwise he's just like a rando. I don't know. This is also in the past, so that's gonna go up there for now. This is also in the past. This is here. This, I guess, is happening while that's happening. Yeah. That's there. Then that's after. This is here. We already have that somewhere else. That's a duplicate now. This is here. Then this must happen like right after. Let's see, Isabel makes it back. Oops. Okay. It's gotta move. This has gotta move. Need to find a compelling reason for this to happen. I feel like half of the challenge of writing is just like finding a compelling reason for things to happen. Like functionally, structurally, I need this to happen for the plot to move forward, but I also want it to feel consistent with the characters and their motivations, and also, yeah, like what their goals are. Like I don't want Lucy to just do something because I need her to for the plot. I want her to do something because it makes sense for her character, but then also, obviously, moves the plot forward. So I am struggling with that a little bit right now, but we're gonna get through it. I know we are. Maybe not today, but eventually. I'm gonna go this here. This is also later. Then this happens, so this speeds up everything else. Okay, my light keeps like leaving me. Is that better? Like a tiny bit, I guess? Bruh. This is gonna be later. This will be later too. I think I also need another Nestor scene in here. Okay, so that's gonna go here. Then this, and then I think this will be like the second scene in this chapter. That happens, then this happens. This has to happen like, I think this is after this. This has to happen first. So this is gonna be like later. This is basically this too. It's gotta go here. That's gotta go here. Maybe this needs to be third person omniscient. Bruh. There's too many people I need to write from, and I don't know if I can make it all in the same space. This is like a, this story is complicated. This is a complicated scope. Okay, then this needs to go in somewhere, and I didn't even put it in here yet. Maybe this is here. Okay, I only made it up to like the midpoint. I don't know why I thought I storyboarded so much more of this. Okay, I'm gonna go storyboard the rest of it off screen and I'll update you after. The rest of the day contained zero writing. I think for me, when I spend so much time focused on one of my projects early in the day, I can burn myself out really quickly if I'm not careful. I do think that splitting up my two writing sprints, I guess, really helped me to kind of keep that momentum going without pushing too hard too fast. But by the end of the day, I was pretty much exhausted. So the last thing that I did before going to bed essentially was going back through each of my documents and totaling up how many words I got across all of my sprints. So obviously you've already seen in previous clips how many words I got per session, but this is when I actually figured out what those numbers were. So first, I obviously go back into my documents and I just pull the word count. That's really easy. What's a little less easy is pulling out any of the words that I got handwritten. And if I wasn't doing a challenge and I wasn't trying to figure out how many words I was able to write when I went in with like no expectations, I probably would have skipped this step, but here I am actually physically counting out all of the words that I hand wrote for my draft today. And then doing a little bit of quick math, which is not my strong suit. So I had to do this a couple of times before I felt confident in it. And then I ended up just adding it to my TrackBear tracker. Knowing that I already outpaced June's word count goal in a single day did give me a lot of hope back. I've kind of been struggling with my project over the last little while. I've officially hit that point in the draft where it's not as fun as it was when I started. And a lot of the problems are really starting to reveal themselves to me in a way that is a little bit daunting, a little bit intimidating, but always a good challenge. Was really happy though to have written 2,703 words in a day that I set out to just try and write and kind of see where things got. So 2,700 words, thereabouts, is a very good word count for me. Even on a day off on a weekend, I'm really happy if I get anywhere between 500 and 800 words. So 2,700 is really, really, really good. I'm also watching in the background, I'm doing a rewatch of The Bear. I watched the new season when it came out and immediately went back to the very beginning and watched the entire thing through. Weirdly enough, that is one of my comfort shows. I love The Bear. I know it's a little stressful. I used to work in a restaurant when I was in high school, so it's a little nostalgic for me. I also try to do a little bit of reading before I go to bed. So I picked up Cassandra Clare's new book, The Ragpicker King. It's the sequel to Swordcatcher, which I loved. Swordcatcher was such a good book. Ragpicker King, as I'm recording this voiceover, I've since finished the book. It was also fantastic, but I highly, highly recommend it, especially if you like a high fantasy. Anyway, that pretty much sums up my writing for today's video. I know I said I was going to talk a little bit more about my little sticky note exercise, but realistically, I just kind of added everything that I had written out in terms of world building and new scenes and things like that in my actual draft, and I just captured them in sticky note form. So I wasn't really doing a ton of new stuff, and I do still think I have a ways to go before the plot will fully emerge. But that is one of the downsides, I think, to doing a lot of complex world building and having many different story arcs that all coalesce at a certain point. That is kind of where we landed, honestly, with this writing day. Overall, I'm feeling really good, really proud of myself, and for the first time in a long time, hopeful about the future of this project. So for now, that's all she wrote, but I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.